Alright guys, today I got for you all some raid rage content. I'm not upset, but the community's a little bit heated for some players, especially the players who have taken massive advantage of Wixwell, which is understandable because they went for the fusion and they should be. So let's dive into some different things, talk about some different things, and I want to hear your opinions down below. So first thing, Saf did a video, check this out, I'll leave it linked down below, check it out, it's very interesting, very informative, and essentially talks about how Wixwell's shield, scaling based on percents, makes exponential growth, so the shield starts like this, and it goes way off the map. You get some ridiculous numbers, and that's how you're getting crazy high numbers from Aislinn blowing up Ironclad shield, getting huge heals, and just massive 1 billion plus damage. Yumeko doing tons of damage, all this kind of stuff, breaking Wixwell in the game. He talks about how that works. This post right here talks about how in an interview recently with the content creators and the raid devs, where they mentioned that there will be a shield size growth cap in the future, but if it will break the infinite clan boss teams or not, we really don't know. Also, if you've built a Wixwell team and you have an old clan boss team, you may want to leave it just for a little while before we know what fixes are going into play. So that's the initial Wixwell stuff. My opinions on Wixwell, just real quick, should he be fixed? I think that if he's going to be fixed, PLARIUMS needs to very carefully, very thoroughly decide how they're going to fix him. Because if they fix him and they break these clan boss teams, that is going to be beyond ridiculous. There are players who went for this fusion who spent money, actual real life money, whether it's $10 or $100, it doesn't matter, but they spent real money going for this fusion in the expectation that this champion was going to unlock full auto Ultra Nightmare clan boss for them, for their clan, everything, okay? This was a big investment. This was something that players knew they were going into, and if they nerf him, it's 100% a bait and switch. Invest in the champion, pull it away from him, and now they got nothing. So I do not believe Wixwell should be nerfed. Now, I do think it should be fixed in some way because infinite scaling of really anything in the game is never good. With that said, I believe PLARIUMS has much bigger issues than Wixwell. One of the key things I want you to ask yourself when you're thinking about if something should be fixed or not, maybe this isn't the best way to look at it, but it's how I'm going to look at it. And that is it making the game more fun or less fun for players? Because that's the main goal of the game, right? To make the game enjoyable, players spend money, they get more enjoyment. It's pretty simple. Armanz, is he making the game more fun or less fun? In general, I'd say less fun. Polymorph makes the game, in general, less fun, but there's some nuances I'll get to in a little bit. Trunda makes the game less fun. Yumeko, I would actually argue, makes the game more fun. Except for with Trunda, if you remove her, then Yumeko makes the game more fun. I'll talk about that as well. Wixwell, without a doubt, makes the game more fun. Issues with events, well, that's going to be besides the point. I'll talk about that more later on. But Wixwell with shields. Where would Wixwell shields make the game less fun for other players? You could say Hydra Clash. This is the only area where he would actually matter. However, with the current state of things where Trunda is doing billions and billions of damage, 20 billion damage, 60 billion damage, I believe is the record on Nightmare Hydra, and that is making the game less fun. Trunda doing that insane damage is making the game less fun, even for the players using those Trunda teams, because a lot of them are manual. You have to do an hour and a half of manual content to get the Trunda to do that damage, so those players are not having more fun with the game. So Trunda, I believe, easily makes the game less fun. And when you compare Wixwell damage in a Yumeko team to Trunda damage, well, you're looking at under 5 million. I don't know what the or under 5 billion. I don't know what the highest Wixwell damage team is. Maybe it could push high damage. And if they nerf Trunda and then Wixwell teams start blowing stuff out of the water, maybe things should be adjusted there as well. But for now, Wixwell teams, I believe, make the game more fun for players. And this is the only area they're actually competitive. Wixwell is not really going to be an arena. I can't see him being used there. And Clan Boss, it literally opens up content for players never before accessible. So it's significantly more fun. Exponentially, PLARIUMS likes that. So exponentially more fun in Clan Boss. And in their Hydra teams, just basic Hydra teams, also makes the game, I'd say, significantly more fun. So Wixwell overall makes the game better. I think there's some things that need to be adjusted, but I definitely don't think it should break his core functionality in these teams and make him just not viable in things like the Hydra and so on. Like these Hydra Yumeko teams pushing high damage, I don't think that should be a thing. Pushing high damage in Clan Boss, I don't think that should be a thing either. Now, when you look at things like Armanz, I'd say, even though I use him and he helps me out a lot, he makes the game less fun for players. I don't know how exactly he could be fixed, because it could be, you know, changing the stealing turn meter to just removing turn meter. It could maybe be giving him extra cooldowns. But in general, in live arena especially, if you are in gold and you pick Armanz, the enemy has to ban Armanz. If they pick Armanz, you have to ban Armanz. Like there's so few counters to him. Right now, he's making the game less fun. Now, if we get a fusion or if we get a free login champion who counters him pretty well, that's going to be a different story. Then he could maybe be balanced out. But for now, having a champion who essentially breaks so much stuff in the game by having a steel turn meter into an A3 that sheeps somebody, if it's ridiculous when a champion could be picked alongside a support champion, could be picked in live arena alongside 4 other support champions and only 1 damage dealer, but you still have to ban the 1 support, because if not, they will just whittle your team down because of the constant sheeps over the course of the match. That shouldn't be possible. That is ridiculous. So I do believe Armanz should be adjusted. I think for most players, he makes the game less fun. And I think there should be a fix there of some kind. Polymorph, I'd actually argue that in a way it makes the game more fun for some players, but then other players it makes it less fun. If you're earlier in the arena, if you're working through 3v3, if you're in lower live arena, Polymorph could be the difference between you winning a match and you losing a match. And a lot of players, if you're using lower stars of Polymorph and the enemy is using lower stars just RNG, I don't think it's that bad. Like when I'm coming up, if I get polymorphed, it's fine. It's not a huge deal. It doesn't happen all the time. I don't get super frustrated with it. But when you get into the high levels of arena, when you get into push and platinum arena, you look at these top players here, polymorph on every champion. This is ridiculous. Every champion has polymorph. It's no longer, hey, I may get polymorph. It's, hey, I can't bring a Siphi who places a sleep on somebody because she's probably going to get polymorphed. I can't use Mikage's AoE stun or AoE strip because I'm probably going to get polymorphed. I cannot use my champion's mechanics because I'm going to get polymorphed. It's ridiculous that a Rhodos is good in 6-star polymorph when we have skills like 6-star temporal chains that are just, or 6-star ward of the fallen that is just so good. Like it's crazy that any champion can go into polymorph. If you don't know who should be in polymorph, they should be in polymorph, right? Like if you're going looking at somebody, hey, what blessing should they have? Just do polymorph. Polymorph is fine. At 6-star, it's just so broken. And it makes the game less enjoyable. Losing to RNG is something that should be accepted, but losing to something that is basically guaranteed, but you really have no way around it, like in these kind of teams where everything's stacked with polymorph, it's a completely different ball game. So as you're climbing, and if you're lower in the arena, and even me, like I don't see a massive issue with polymorph yet, but as you get higher and higher, in live arena, these players are just gonna be stacked with polymorph. Everything has polymorph essentially. It's just across the board, all polymorph. And this is not fun, okay? So I'd say in general, polymorph makes the game less fun. For earlier players, it's possibly more fun though. Trunda being broken, I already talked about that. It makes the game less fun overall. Hydra Clash gets sniped. Hydra Clashes get ruined. You just simply cannot compete. There's no, hours of work you can put into to make your team do more damage. Like even Velocio, who's put in tons of time for Hydra, even has a Trunda team. He has a Nightmare team doing 3.9 billion damage on Nightmare, which is incredible. No Trunda. Like, these are good, well thought out teams, but if the enemy drops one Trunda key, even on hard mode, it completely mitigates everything that he has here, which is crazy. A Trunda Yumeko team just completely mitigates everything he has. They're first place. It's done. That person didn't probably have fun pushing that manual key. Maybe they had fun winning, but that's besides the point. But now you have 30 players who are super frustrated because their entire clan just got out damaged by one champion. By one champion who is known to be broken. So Trunda makes the game less fun. We'll say less. An L for Trunda. We'll say an L for Poly. I'll say an L for Armanz. Now, this doesn't say you should go in here and change Armanz completely. I think there should be some things adjusted with him. I think having him as a fusion, though, makes it a little tricky because nerfing fusions is never cool. But then again, you see Rhodos, who got nerfed. And he used to be completely OP broken. And now he's still very good, but he's definitely been knocked down a few pegs. I think the same thing is acceptable for Armanz. I think if they change him, it's going to be okay. Because the areas of the game that he's affecting are actually affecting players. Whereas Wixwell makes the game more fun, and it's not really affecting other players. Like, it's not doing crazy damage in Hydra. It's doing good damage. It's doing great damage. You're doing more damage than you could with a lot of other teams, but it's not doing Trunda level damages. Like, you're not getting many times more than what the next best team could do. So Wixwell so far, I'd say, is more fun. Even though I don't like writing MF on this sheet, I guess MF is the best thing I can do. Yumeko resetting each other. The reason why I said this is actually more fun is because outside of Hydra, where most players are seeing this done, there's actually a lot of Yumeko stuff being done in the arena. She is the only reset champion who can reset other reset champions. Kaimar's, Krixia's can't do that. But in Doom Tower, a lot of players will use Yumeko to even reset the Kaimar, so they can have more resets overall. In the arena, you can have Kaimar go first, then Yumeko, and essentially have 3 total resets or 4 total resets. And so a lot of total resets, which is super cool. I forget what order it is. Either way, you can have a lot of resets going back and forth there. So you can have some pretty cool interactions. Kaimar will reset Yumeko. Yumeko doesn't reset Kaimar. But you have a lot of cool interactions with Yumeko in different areas of the game. So I don't think she should be fixed because her kit works awesome outside of Hydra. And even if you break her in Hydra, Yumeko or Trunda still does tons of damage. Like, you can still get Trunda to push up to some crazy damage, and it's Trunda at the end of the day who's actually broken. Now, double Yumeko could still do some pretty crazy damage with other teams. There's a lot of other teams that could do that, but the main one being Trunda. I don't know of any. There may be some that are going to be, you know, the next new Trunda if Trunda does get nerfed. But for now, I don't see it happening, especially not to that level. So in general, I think Yumeko double resetting makes it more fun, especially if you're a player out there who has gotten lucky and gotten a dupe of Yumeko, and now you can use those together. You don't really want to, you know, suck the fun out of something that really isn't affecting everybody when it's this champion right here who's actually affecting everybody. But then we have issues with events. Now, the issues with events is a little bit less, but essentially, I feel like the events are not anything new and exciting, though I do like that they increased the Fire Knight points by 50% for hard mode, which is awesome. I do think they should have more events with better rewards and less point requirements. Like the Dungeon Divers recently have been big investments. Dungeon Divers into the hero paths, into the fusions. There's a lot of events going on and just constantly draining of your resources, which is okay because you can pick and choose what you go for. I'd rather there be events than no events, but I'd also love to see things like, you know, more of the epic only tournaments, but actually have really good rewards. So like have the void shards, maybe even a sacred shard, more primal prism crystals, maybe even primal shards at the top versus the mediocre rewards that sometimes they have. But having epic events, having rare events even could be cool, even though I may not even competing on them. But even at stage 20 would be pretty cool. Something that players actually have to, you know, put their brain to. Doesn't require a significant investment, but you do get good rewards. You have good fun. And you have a better tournament. Having events like Live Arena where it's, okay, you can only use epics, or you can only use, you can't use these legendaries. Okay, you can't use Armanz. Just have Armanz banned from the arena at this time. Like specific, you know, specific requirements. You can't use Taras, can't use Merchika, can't use Narcy. None of these champions, you can't use these, but you can use your other champions instead. Like a separate live arena possibly. That could be cool. Like Hearthstone, for example, has stuff like that in a way where they have new cards released, and then if you want to play in the newest, you can't use the old cards. But if you want to play just the general, you can go back and use all the old cards. Something like that could be kind of interesting. But instead, PLARIUM just banned specific champions, maybe the most used champions for that, you know, month. They just banned those from the arena. So you have to mix up the meta, change up things, and you could push a little bit better, and you could be more flexible. I do think more things could be added to the game that make the game more enjoyable and less feel like a job with as much stuff there is to do in the game. With that said, though, the events was the less focus of the video. The main focus was Wixwell, Yumeko, Trunda, Poly, and Armanz. I think these are the biggest issues currently in the game, and I think Wixwell is at the lowest, and I believe the issues that should be addressed first is Trunda. Armanz and Poly are pretty big, and Yumeko, I personally don't think is that big of a deal. I think she's okay where she's at. But Trunda, Poly, and Armanz are massive issues that are plaguing the game, honestly. I like using Armanz. He's fun. However, it's not fun that you have to pick him every single time. The enemy has to pick him every single time, and if you don't ban him, you're not going to be very likely to lose. There are some options you can work around him, but they're not even that consistent. And just having him in the game is honestly just so frustrating. With the way he currently is, if he didn't have Steel Turn Meter, if it was just decrease, it wouldn't be as horrible. You would actually have a chance maybe of going eventually, but before he gets another turn, maybe it would help you out. But since it's steals into a sheep, into a strip that boosts his turn meter again, he's essentially getting 3 turns before you're getting 1. If you have a lot of buffs on you, that's how many he gets, which is crazy. And then your first turn is going to be a stun anyways. Heck, you could even remove the stun, and it would maybe even be okay. I don't know if I'd want that, because it messes up his climbing potential in Doom Tower and stuff, but hey, maybe it's the way. Either way, guys, I want to hear what you all think about this stuff. Definitely interested in hearing your opinions. I will be live tomorrow with Raid over on Twitch at 9 a.m. Eastern, and I'm going live for some AFK Journey content here in about 5 minutes, so by the time you watch this video, I'll probably be live. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you in the next one.